كنت ale bukul susray budul maraklay marbukul belaw pilum ebiraklay marmasil belaw President ra Senate Hokons Paules marugul senators Speaker Anastasio marugul delegates Vice President mar ministers Chief Justice ngirak kalsong marugul justices governors speakers lators itu kubet sesusurgi dan marugul other belaw ngarablur ngayang al moro hotcharigi mangarai karablur belar al sils damral timreng asuli rogul uknos edel mem qada du egida kalam lomre gasel agotil qoram al sungul klol al sungul tial بالوضع rablur belar amal amo kamangal time nga gol time Mr. Talams Mr. Sole Mr. Klail gida blur belam lo qadam lo ngaltangat لول تغاوى أدرى أغال كغروس البلو المقدب راب الواد ما إيرول دارت ما أغول من الغروس الدبائر رابلو الأدمر أدري من رابلو ربيلاو كلول من التقال اللي جدر أدر بيلاو الأوك موتيا بالواد أيال بلادرول ما يجيل دولاس من المرول جيريلا أصب أكلين أدبيث ما أدرى بلو ما أكلونيا ولا المرة أدرى بلورا أنا مدادر كبسي من تيال كونفرنس أول أو تي سيل الكالتارين مالوبن ملو تيال ليدل مغلو ريول إيمول بلو أكتولي سيل أنتو قطرول أنتو قال مرينغا سوليرا روغول أدر بيلاو لين ملو بطوغا أيجيل دول نيتر أدرى بلو لسي كامي مونغليتيان مرليتيان الملتقار تيال سكذا ما قلت له قدم له واسه الترافيك رجيده بدون اسمري رمضان سيل الجيم قدم له رارين شو ورار أدل المرور سيم ماتريال أوكياك سان رجيده أملوس أدل مسبب أكرتير وكت مقلايل غرالة أدري قال مرينا سولير أرنال غرا سكول دولية ترتيل واسيجل تبلوك تبسي بولسيل دينغرا سكول الأوكوجي عملي ديول إلا قال غرا سكول ما دو سبب أكرسل تقرأ الترافيك هذي قال مرينا سولير بك الأدر بيلاول الجيل سل كلامريار رينغر تير مالوبن سل كليبرا ورجيد الجيد أولو تين مرار تيجال أوكياك سان رجيد يسي أول مرار أدر أبلون مرار أدر أوريور متجل نتمغل موغا ممدار تيجال أختولي سيلين سل لونغي ملوريور مرار تيلا دلو كومتير تيجال سلي دل مرار البام قدام هذا أورتير سلو لو أي سرجيد تواسي مرال ملويل تيال كونفرنس يا تقولي تيجال أدر أبلور بيلاو تمرا لو بلتيجر رين مرال سمريار أيجر روغول قرا من سوم المرول تمر يجل قطر قرباب الموسو سير كمان غاري أملو سورين مرا جيلي فيش ليه راو إيه متسميك رول لا تمام غاري أملو سورين مرا بعض الأولام بتوكل تكلتري مرا بعض الأولام اللو تيسل أو كلب غليل بيلاو ما يجل المكلو توتيل بيجيدا أدر بيلاو كذا مرينا سوليرا أدر أوريور يسكتوا سين أدر أوريور انتل إيمول قبل من تملو أوريور ربك المينستري مار ديريكتور تير اديم لو وديغل كذا مرارا لول تاغر تير كذا ملي موغاير تير من تيرغال روغول مينستر مار ادري اديم لو البانغر تيال اوريور من كذا مرينغا سوليرا ادرا اوريور ملو سونغ ساليوير دي تديم لسمايل او تران الموغاي اونوسر تيال سيغدا ملاربيلو كذا المال مرينا سولل سيل سكرتاريات اوفيسر جيد الجيد عملين راسي بريدج توماس نجي عمله سكرتار امور ارتال سكرتاريات جيد منتقل بالتغل النيا منار سيل اوبيس لون مسوري غاري وا كيغو ما ايدو ما كينلي تريال اورور تيال اورور رابك كالسيلز ماتريال بالتغل غار اوبيس اقمنين راسي ديملا كالسيل مغتموك لايغال اورور الله كتير نجي هذا المال مرينا سولير سيل أقبلين على هذا ما ستيجامل ميجر الأث دي I think سيل ديل سانغ سير ميجر الأث كندو هذا أسد الدولي سه مصر كلايا نريا تبيني ملاني سيل تقرأ توقع ستيجامل دي ميجر الأث دي تيجيلا برا كنت مكلي كده كان مرينا سولير لا PCC اللي هي دريغل لول تقار تيال سيجا ده mergo arang algira amlo tal sandil dengan school yang kada accommodate tial se kada tial lo marael kemarin sudah apa President Telei ma ngal PCC da igel the sacrifices they made to make this conference a success. Dari mal al suadro ngate al mal menga sulela igal betogol blul ngase orgida tial conference. Tugubet sa ngol sula blue ramrigel. Tel agotem le last el mel ngase orgid di ta ngwal ngase orgid el gut maklil finish line. Temlel creator a set production team of course aigel electronics maigel rogul mlara doleser al selse temwal bel elevator tial conference belal asad roseng tolora blul adar tara aigel goto kora aungile tetelel conference leng because seguidel mesisi el partnership el kedere kamenga asule la blura taiwan el tira agilt mekle abla melmol melon ngase orgidel el binit mokr gidel gireltia kedere kamenga asule la blura shaban el tira tirma sasagawa peace foundation era aigel lungul sutril gireltia conference maigel betogol blura blul adel Australia, New Zealand, Norway, Indonesia abridja maral melo balis di gidam tayona setia dimna katse del di gidel el oli kadam le tuira degal dil gidel adra belaw material salid mo otukurtial al ngaral gut maklil el mora sel got kurba bel sebet di sokalo aiser adra bela lo ase trial salid el adra panama sera khara al babara a Friday gumudo durtire tegiamo hostel tia next conference eto ase ayer rogul conference gi blam ngari kami ukplan mutul ngulang alakla mela kama man momri la urera mel al merra kal wasingara gi mugut mukil mutul ngalak kertel gi blam mesara blur belaw se olo hotel sel klibela orgid mesel kaltar rengargid en lotma en utel alung egut muklil lo hotel mora blurado asen sebed el sebed le kadam letma te kadir gid ngar belaw marsa di lo no se orgid man sel kaltar reng sel الجيدات ما قالوا له متمكروا له أو لهم لو سألوا تكير تيلا نقرأنا ترى مال شغل مرينا سؤال لا مينستر فيكتور جا كمان يسمى كلوات تمل لوريور مجا سكرتاريات المتمكر تيلا لوريور متجا روغون مينسترز كده دي ملاقل سيد الموت تيلا كونفرنس المي على قدا ريمبر سيرغوت تول عملة أبراد نقرأ البلل لونغرا رينا بلول بينار تيلا ملومريغ ليرور رخ تقرأ قوبيد تقول بلورا بلولاف السليد الكمية دريد أدرج السيمر دي كده مرنا سولة السل البلاغر رينغرا أدرا مينستريال especially الفرونت لاينرز التيلو بده make sure كده ملا أورسود يملا قط مكليد ونص إدرو التقارتيال السكده من دي قد سيغل مقمو يقل مال البراني أبلغ وبسرتير موسو بس دي أكتيوا سي قدم تيرا قبل من تريد مع أدر بلا روغو يمرنا سولي ربك الأف ارتيال كيدا ملاغوت مكلي الجمرة لو سين ترى يجل موت بانال دغل وبسريا التريال أدر يجل أوك نا ومرغل الكونفرنس ما يجل مرايل مي كذا يجل سواد النوتيال التيال مرنا سولي لا ميديا el blog el gaber aigal event o banget diregal suadro ngateal diregal wase muy laurera media andi bebera tem diregal giredel mutial rogil shasing agu mesa kadam spendra halwigel masadara protesters ma habebira to em labes waseng gedam masadara conference mang mere mere tele la minister wa tables modia blue prosperity plan mal mabla takal mara adra blue diregal جدا سأل الويك Earth Week قدمنا declare National Earth Week proclamation دي رويرا قولان مسا مينستير دي سوق القرى دي مو تريبل متقلا بيبيرا تقوي because I think it's important for us to know سل ملي Palau business plan دي على مينستير ملا مغكلي البلو prosperity plan ولكم قدم لنا تلا دعنا تيال conference أورينج سه الغوتل تيال تقويا sumak mom sa dani wase tel the beth maiger klunya ngar alsel aigeng magarang kita lokalo dulu tungu ser klisi lo ngoral edo sikro la se magara dong wolori edo mol mal mangat mokri el gira la ar adra blu mal adra kira alsel aigal blu te magara maiger klunya wala ngar alsel se ala se dro sing mle mokte kartel conference ma ura kadam sa dani lo ase the beth magara mongol wolor tel the beth magara mongot mokri gira la adra blu el maklunya wala ngar alsel portugal adra blu seguida ala se dro sing mokte malu vendar tel conference e gumra lo ase trigael betogol panels el tilo ma uldas el tilo da mal di focus seguida el togo el no mga taktil wase كده ما لنقل تنات especially قال لي انسان مكلو دبيت دي بيبي time era ada mem tos pe egal debed luk ti klungyole de agol klungyole adrablu mugara do li si irsel wase mugara klungyol arweb ten mora adrablu mang sel do sa adrablu prosperity plan engari au daso el tilob do olvira glula lo ase tial togora sanctuarium namo ewiderra agire del lo mesni wase aklungyol mran mora adrabelaw ngara kame bodongil lo mesri Mumlani aulda soltilo ya talbu iram la memo emloni atelle doloni trado olbil wase kame bodome sertial arangale laurior e bodome ser wase kidan ngaraigel se edel elmo gongel waseng klungyolel ngaraigel awngil dongo smok el spisi itial tal gida amla ruli amla matmokri na igale widerra mang kida amloni atelle el mlora a bluram regel ya ministera release el dase tegi del planner gid el moais el trigal sali del wase agotrul kamama amdengel wase ngare ngal sela agar ngela abluma waigel lul de suera adrol bil tom das wase ngare gel tretal se drogi ngare agar regel moragablement من سئل مشورة adr bela wera gi morale ya minister jengin samla mesa kamo wase ngama minister udah se yosang ang nga kadela alsils ang songos model se kal meira October 1st ra next year ng songos rel al time ra medel tal million kam help ra kal mo understand wase ak magara egot maklitiang ak cancel sel order gidel el mo change el textbook el mlamo ra kargir magse ak stop ra breakfast program ngara kruli adak layoff ra sensei what do I do مجد السيرة ده برام ريجل يدوم ده دور أرسلي ده كمان مجد تقتيل واسي أو ده سيرة أدرى هاوس هذه وسيلة تقل المشورة أدرى بيلا سيا مقتك مجد ملون التنات ترجال سلي ده جينيل واسي سيد لو مشورة أدرى بيلا هذا اللي يدرو بسين كلو تطرل توي يسأل لو مشورة لو جيو تيال ده بيت أكلو تطرل سأل غير رجال لو جيو تيال ده بيت أكلو تطرل بتجي ليه واسي أجي مو مسكميو at 2.6 million al mral mele del rak rabek rak el mosu klise es el toram rigel dos peñas mun preserve ra integrity ra sanctuary gada mal molmal al blar para yel dai sana mo de katang ra eleng mlang mo degal di gidam de no asem namo gira del el transition namo gira del el lomes ase tiam gra adreli plan el mom sisi magra ngar adar bela mo involve al sen ma parte ser plan ase ngirel moria wilom su vertial de bet which ngelet sel panel plani ngel tedwaita adilli mla orolom gela nine el blue pacific el murur sel daseng marine spatial planning yaklo askin wase abelan sel mo parte tilang wase wala chum tilang vanam sadar after a 9 year el mo mo braga gel bebra planet bergid mun kadilo bara bila serse ni trial sel dengan brigel agin wase dia agi mas kami angeso el dire galut maklise gid romsu el cloud tutel omsu ya aparte se maya wal tul blada wa da siga udo der girel digi der asen de kased el malmol mal ngar seguide margo digira del dire gal milisi era aurior godas misi aurior rablura abelau material uk adar omnga ngar ablur belau ngaria bofi a jackson ngina ngas ngaria abil singen mardor tia teden ngar belau el altan el mituta aigel urerir omnget len dire ngal sangasela al belger darablu magara process ngangi gede magara laptop ngi rablu belaw begitu adar bela on ngangi gele ngako teklor al tel lomget gida diri kan menanya lo ase over seral ada close sanctuary in merela aigel blagatak al fakta yagid mle close aigel rogul sersara aul le tara ko temle close gara sersara aul aigel provide aigel wow le moradial te diri kan menanya lo ase seral close aigel sersara aul emna mode kalor tra aul ra locally grown al aul diri kan aigel ngari engol ngosong serselo mngia ngara almol egi tam dengi lo ase almol la ko tekloa autotrel egi del protecting Jadi kan mga se sel nga song so amnget ara aroid eng mo kloa eng bring la ara langal ngi kan ngon mga basang lol balak ra almol ay gaya ada silu bulwa sel ngal sang sel tel toy mangira del dela gira del milisi sel do sing local fishery jadi kan mga se tel de ble designate ngi lo sing luil ba sentra mo budul nga bara dra blur belaw adimle amle imora blu amle soal mga dulil wa sending dia kalau tuir sub ngira del el rule apasyo lungira ar adar bela dia kalau lungira al sum ko trial selida giril malmol ngara eleng mlotro ko pase tam cloud to trial selid edol nga seor tirndi mela ka dobe ser adar bela el al tutaw akmal dir kamnara a sel ceremony kadamre nga sul adar syabal mla maskit sel pon and line vessel el mol nga sera abofi local fishing company makmil nga do urtir akul ger tilo ase mela al time el ngara air sel ngabar den sobil di ngara air ngabar ito asendi ka masoma mel ngara air tel vital mabdula yang anak le is yang ongos ndi el al time ende ka sin ngara air sel ngal simmer why senda ke minister so sel plan na minister lultur dul otigal sa dito kasi kita na mo yung transition on more 100% sustainable management why say emro emone ate ala rai del local company ri Bofi Jackson ma ardor wasem de helper tir bol sin ngara bolo ngi gel ungil basyo ngara ni mulse el aigal ukpil singir bol se el mega profit provider in mora atrial adal mlamur aigal show baertir egide dongo do trial salide el helper gide mura port ma ablila processing Masel yang galir elmer si adro durok kamo na iklala blur bela. Mengira dalo mesel tel ala ngalela. Ato koy ma gumra lo ase al baby rata me kado ukti o mes rabitang ma arroz ede kado il tirtili lo ase ngara amoktek mangara plan. Mga kaulit kami na mida ase sel morula report arang litial plan el smoothing. Legida gira del mestria arbek la adam makitel dolo koy. Ndi halo kusper tider example. Tial adura amdur iptal akmeder buat tial ada tial toy leti kita amle happen kadangara kan friends ekata protest morar adara ngodol bulu a protest agir morgi dar adar bulu ngana mo protest morar adara ngodol bulu tiga adara ngodol bulu amle lo ase agi ngosu gumiu mung up to the last minute emna na tukan merak ma minister lo ase tiga adara ngodol tron ser tial plan dem namora ni lo ase ngara ngaring irikla ngari ra ablumiu ngara korap tok om dibon marum tok ra mak awula ko sing maldiwa madu riptal inse der ko ase a school ol sangreng ma hospital ol sangreng ma abla bulis ol sangreng ma tolgi tanges mo kora padung anges wal may ya ase am ko tukur tial kara kal tia dekal amle mokte ka ase tia mongira bekla hise se amle mokte kar gid me al baby rata mengira dan motma oba imolul das o ekay ngaseo ilegida mokte kar gid mal dio susu beti garungu dora blur bera rogi beti garungu dora adar belao dirika kal mod ako sergi dora domura urere der merang ako tagire adar belao that's always been at the forefront mori atko lo ase triam na maudo triam na I'm sorry di moludo da darur tri do siglo ase magare mo do mor omsangal gut mok laige luls pilar adar bela rabek pelsit school hospital mabla bulis reige ya si amne sois baudo dream state rabi for al mohel paige druro meng kada maral ngal tangat kada betokar wil selid sel tarablo dumruringi haladik pakatakli akar se kada masadara atialo mga trablur bela se era al time gida gida stopper tiangeleng gida amal klobo gole wil bulu ukmal wa to ubet se ayel bebi rabla amal kitel bulu so di dengar wa FSM marwa masyan letegi ala wa persena dan mesois bradbir di hale wa isa kamiu gida el al sales au ule ngari au do el do suguri because of the PNA agreement sell parties to narrow agreement ayer fishing days el mlotrao mar sel karager dolari ayer dia langara era ayer belu mukadamal murura dangar bela do sadro kantila ye egid dangar bital do laudo da qotr murur tigal selid radro ngodo belu tira part tial parties to narrow agreement el girier gir mundi kada dangar era belu ada kada mdayen wasing galgi lar murt betonga ini wase pere mortra yel dei sekamira nauru dia langara airse mung gida dia kali gira tokram regela sen dia kali gira hypocrites komuna tokol hypocrites sadoy misel do sadra tokoy الوا غدو mal مغدون mal ligang alu begita todo telor tial mengira del motmage mal blaktak la dogol marada rablu ena kada asen dekal sama el sil se along nan armurtra ngawal el adra ngodol bula armurtri dingar se mora ekte rablu dekal ger rablu wat etia yedra ngari aplan minister ase magra dol ger tiar al duk magra ngar adar belak mur al set tialur so patoka arod digu maral wase partrangar elu as media tell the whole story le ser lag mo tibdia whole story morar nder adrablu kada patrangi kan obal meraga kami ama suami loli istri mo da kasi adung hotel kan se kita kita mo kain ngaselo se kita ngara imol bila sel imo mokte garigi di betti gar mo drablur bela samaria lo sera adar belau el sea mokte kam madayo se bebira time kada mo kakabos di umdo sa mokte ka osisiu hala dik share last story akola ra magaleng ne sana lom tira rubugul bela mo kasi papa maram ka sana sel babir el mor trigal sel lidel ngara igal ngod al bulul me engwase hindi kal soda persen al mer bela kita mangara tial ludo don ngara persen ngara wamas melak dol sa babir mor trigal mal burur di you know but that's part of the miscommunication and I hope and gida through the media ekada help educator wasing maldi moktek tigarang udura blur belaw ngariak lokte del bilskida alit may the help and make sure got and benefit other belaw and that's always been the goal from the beginning minister sulang rambring lurere na waklol tema mendi we have a lot to celebrate and I think said most importantly can celebrate wase batokar sa alit el samria long sa orgid batigaran dira the bela blue belo se last el panel lecture niya ngari tedel mal maral adra blue adra sel panel lo mugi kang machan carry kadangal tangat tetigay del maral sa alit del adra blue la asamria long sa bela long sa gida way gida del plan including el trial el baby sa alit ngara outside mong I know wase we will make sure our oceans are protected, our people are taken care of, and we will be prosperous. So, Komsulang, the plan was build back better, and that's the plan. And I think sell opportunity to our oceans and sharing with the world that our challenges and how we can do it better. Ngari atora Miguel Black was a plan na minister. Al sumbo de masada tial PNMS. Tiam namo 7 years, so I say. I got iPhone every top the best version. Muna mo toka change tial PNMS. Kadam namo say tiam ligiran nga rais, kadam mo mara west. Every year, kada review, upgrade the plan. Mela kaduk nga 7 years muna mo PNMS version 7.0, mura 8.0. I continue improving it because that's what we should do as a nation. Kadam sa igan nga sangaset. Tingin la madang abu ko dablo lo ase preserve the best, improve the rest, and I think sagida aruf tnia minister oman sulang minister skate alam ko maulal
sulang presidente marul total mara media mar bekal adra belaw Edicluto el modo ella igel dilu presidente el girella our ocean conference tirigel el adel mlel buknoriat el legal modo tira mal imol togal delir kwaseng beside 16 billion el blal gamit ringia blue lath taya imol conference el international conference el blal borngi well organized yar adak mal relax Pekal blue sel dwara conference ar ada mal tense because of high security risk tamal le feel at home edregal mutul ma emphasizes sel dilla president wasya tirgel bekal adal mle involved vertial conference amalul otis el hospitality tirgedar adre belau bekal ada mal mle willing el help tadi smile saya imol gurang seringin ar bekal participants so beside the 16 billion dollars and say gid lungil imet sergidar ada belal suadal oti saya alilsang diregal tel conference al doaseng tarigel gotel mle diverse and inclusive conference mlaria participation ra youth mlaria participation ra indigenous people from across the globe pekal conference al daboringe tabul all levels al ada mga adu etia conference el play the mestrar dil مسألة الدريغ الواقع لورجيث قم دريغ الملساغ من ستيج قم ملسا انسينغول من الموضوع ذو لهم ترى أرذيل سي أوانرا أولمر أضرب بنامق وسي قدم لاوان بار المال مرباب لأن أتمو سي أجيرير المو أتشيفرينير قوسي أريوت مغرام بارترا تلو موضوع ذو moral universal participation را ar other tell blue lath after all دغال سبيل إمول blue يغط مقليد تيال challenge الجيدا face رنجيرا ocean الجيدا التوريني so ngariya الجيدا الداسين ملي 16.3 billion worth را commitments دريرو لرتيال بيلاو so this is the second highest commitment of all the ocean conference. Sel mlegot الغربة Norway مle 63 point some billion dollars. Ya belawa 16.3 billion dollars. Sel next amle Indonesia 10 billion dollars. Ya gel rest of conference adimle less than 10 billion dollars. So maral mo clotho the sel do ring ariya kwasya access el moray gagi del resources ma implementation ray gagi del commitment underground amral the realize ringi sooner rather than many years later let's say mo mega changes in the health of the oceans aigel avela amlaringa telel direg lodar sa commitment ringi direg lo support commitment el azma bebir rablu أولنجي تربيلاو المو سبورت مسيل غوتا أقدم له سبورت ترسل Island Ocean Connection Challenge سمقتغرنيا أدريسا تغور invasive species ما restoration رجل habitat ملام تمال because of invasive species بلاو ما بنما ملغو أيام لغو تبلو السان unto the commitment لو Island Conservation, ma Scripps Institutional Oceanography, ma Rewild. Siya commitment to raise $130 million by Panama Ocean Conference. Sira the sign commitment kadam la raise ang $50 million. Iya kuk mo ringa level mo overall Bangala Island Conservation. During the conference, I give less sign MOU Lovangela Island Conservation. Ngaringa already ngarabela eradicate tabeap kum mlarmeng sa rat eradication rang ayang ma ngarka klara ngaralong mangaringa mora aulong. Gidere lore lovantri lo meselo sing ngaringa supporters of ilmo maskidra kuktogora control manage eradicate a fruit fly avlur below. Kadidirigal mlo kami Morsel Ocean Risk and Resilience Action Alliance. Kita mligot full seats member. Kadidirigal mlo support ourselves declaration and zero emission shipping by 2050. Aigel kuk commitment bela wa diluk kasegagi da gibo focus ra aguk bela belur belau kadamle kamit mora 100% sustainable management ra atabeth guided by a 3-year science-based marine spatial plan. Tagil do modoringir masing blue prosperity plan. Kadidirigal mle kamit to generating 100% of our renewable energy sources by 2032 without increasing cost to consumers. Emphasize yourself kasing adoru ringi ada alswada bol maring ala dengil marar okyara. Kadidirigal mle kamit wasya by 2030 Palau will significantly increase climate resilience and food security through tripling the production and consumption of locally produced healthy foods from land and sea. Foods that are produced in a nature positive, culture positive, and socially equitable manner. Kadidirigal mle kamit wasya kadamo engage Lobontri regal sa lidera Valura Pacific Island to significantly make progress on achieving 30 by 30 commitment by 2025. Kadidirigal mle kwase kadamo commit to achieving 100% sustainable management of our ocean by 2025. Include el modo el aigel dilu presidente el gire la Blue Prosperity Plan ma tial el gora da logo ngangi la blur belal gire la kwase tel 80% abodo ringi go tomli sel integrity ra ul modom lomro ringi kadakmal rongosi sel concern ra tirigel ko kwase tiadal gire del mare ringi di tegi da plan el gib la moto budil kwase abodo ringi ngani ngil teletele le gadamo mare ringi لقدم لامو مس أيجال نال سانسل أباي سل دولين ترياق مس قدم مغرا مت مغلا وريور البيك لعذ مقدم سب هذا الأتشيبر سل اليوم له مقتل قاسي تال resource الجذا هذا بلا ما نتشرني therefore كل benefit تغيير هذا المور تال resource غنيا راورين قمسي تادر اللي غذا ذي كل موتيت را مقلول الغنبالي يا أولما غني تال 3 years transition plan سيادو سبيرير كما سيغذا مغرام اللي سي غنبالي ربيلو مالسل إذرق إذا سيغ ملا increase fishing ground الموسبئل financially viable لطور أمغذ غني غنبالي رجيدا هذا بيلا السبئل participate أقول ما ديملا غدو أسي قدو لنجت أولبيرا غلو لالقوسي ملا غدي دو أسمريل 100% الذي دو أسمريل 100% الالتايم إن بوفي موتيتا أقول ما أجيملو لنجت را أتريجل conservation investors الواسي مم بس كمان سيجد $2.6 million النية revenue loss را سيجد الواسي نمو غيري أمغيث ملول مول ملذاق أمغيث السيل 80% يا أمغيث ذي الغانية 20% يجل مورين 80% تامو experiment الجيدا أوريول لبنجل يجل غم بالي ربيلو القواسي غدا مغرا experiment الملسي يجل غم بالي first and foremost أقواسي غدا مغرا maintain السيل integrity تال PNMS النية قواسي غدا ميرو رنجي الprotect رار أدر بيلو ومداس فندي ملاغا أقمال قواسي غدا ميرو را PNMS لغدا protect راتونا غدا ميرو رنجي لغدا protect رار أدر بيلو مسيا مقتغرا بلان الغمامة غوك ملا غوت مقلي يومرا قواسي أدنغرا السل إذراق يدو سوبرني التال سل إذراق يدو قواسين دياق مذلوبت المرتياي كذي الو قواسي السل إذراق يدو قواسين ملامو جيرل موانغران من غارنجي سيجد السبقرين را قواسي 80%. Kadamla ang ulda sweden di stagara 80%. Di sel mle muqtiq musit tia doruri magarar adar belamong. Ese ya malmol mal muqtiq el tia blue prosperity plan wase. Aigel guk kibla muesel sabe edel gutmok yar adar belamong aigakith. Maduk malasem le derrak ala al sabel. Egaduk maratra uldaso. Madolingit tamil understanding ara arbeklad matrigel el gora ngania sebe kren artil gelera como se tiadre li er adre vela motit tiadoru to protect er adre mother vela first and foremost omsula
Kibay bridge. Habay ko atel gora di sa bridge. Thomas ngi amle secretariat ora secretariat rigid. الجيرال تيال our ocean conference ngi matim ria otro día de mrenga sulir ramri lurere mlamok medal tarra al tira de old ala cartel lurere to get us to where we were today and last week mang adamrenga sulele mo super bridge mo yamis communication ma kamlo rang ron mo mo sigir gid ndi gaw tian mlami mang aklo mrenga suler adan di aknera singari tiagel details so I want you to paskate elem Mamorang asaur tigel individuals mar adel tiram le parte tial tim rigid gut maklitel urior. Gumra lo asen cloud to tell ar bekra other belam na participate and ngani tri rukmal netugubet sa on sutrir. So I want to give you the chance to look recognize tire o gida about the conference. Sula.
Man basula tial presidente malungil total mararokul av. Hindi kalbatol tokak pagulkoy. Akmal di ngartiang so almutel tial Emreng asuri trigger rokul adel tiram lemring la ready behind the scenes selgit makliam leungil conference selbelur bela amle hosteringi. Presidente dia bago mas angkli rokul le kadmol loknyam that time maktimo mas aigel goraway ablel committee sel tiram la alsel ang kadawasing laring aigel multifaceted needs sel tel conference sel tira dilla kalorio rokul mga tmokla. Mamlaring isel kami tira program kagina Minister Victor Ngartiang ngi madaktor kolbo ako kor ulurior loge trato kora program ngaring isel kami tira events and hospitality al kagina Minister matu al mar adra PBN Ngartiang direct kalmal neklo already del girel mang ang malneung ilabasi illegal venues sergi de mal neklabo kala atara klo al neklo talenting ital conference president ato kora protocol Makadami ng asuela minister ay taro, malungil la service at protocol al mar okya kargi damang in fact tamal patokar adal maldi malang asaw la malungil la service ra drivers per liaison officers sertir kadamal malang asuli ra rokul drivers mar liaison officers metriga rokul adal tira amle support at tokora protocol ang direct kalso adal malang asuli ra adra health ma security committee sertir amle keep us safe from threats ma direct kal COVID-19 kada direct kalmi nga sulir ar other facilities Minister Obiang ar other PNCC al tira ulurior al mga tmok legal venues sirgi they make sure luwaseng nga rin yung connectivity legal venues and lastly na rin itirigel other long sir sil tokora youth mga maswad mi nga sulir rokul other tiram na rin kagidal kakrosal committee sim na mi rin ulurior gidal tel conference Presidenta tira kal hotel te ale eswa al mo recognize ra tigel partner til secretariat til secretariat amil adrodre logiwa executive order for 55 el tilob dra chulara last year ever since sige del time mer el ang nga te del adel tira gidra gimda kalurior malsugal mo recognize tira man nemring lulurerir make sure again roguil kat magil al tel conference milgat mokla mga ring agi kuberel ngagi dem le coordinate tagil ko kwarto kora events ma hospitality ma protocol direct kal ngaring edumal otob the al ngi am le coordinate tagil to kora security ma health ma facilities ma telecommunications direct kal ngaring Kenley Kenneth el ngi am le coordinate tagil le activities for our youth and last but not least the president ngaring imora adel le on board the secretariat around the October last year nga other MPII ang klela amor miya haruwo ngai giden gel mle ongora alage rogul tokora procurement ma gel ora involve finance mle make sure en kaltmok la alu ulam lai mle make sure rogul avangar nga galir ma age rogul mle gire del goods and services mle gire del procure ngai gidiam mle make sure wasen kaltmok la makadamal menang asule le menang asule la minister obi ang mlo sabi el ko ka release ngi mang be olang seora secretariat President taktira kal maswa kal menang asulem kau mak tel cabinet ter kau marokul members ra steering committee ra ocean kama ma kora dine migi kal ad mang bato ka gelo kam lengal sangasam whether ang kora tokora shungar bela wong baby ra toko inding menang asuli ul gire lakkal orang ra kami we kada dila kalorio re kut makliter conference migi tial mlama mare karangi tial conference sa presidenta dimla kadil ako maral wasit tiyang balur bela ro kuy mle hostel ng India kadil government at the end of the day ang gira din mga sulir other bela wal gira lang min hospitality tira ul hotel mo tigal okya kadil mle attendra our ocean conference hindi gigi presidente kumal mesulang
you know bridge kada sadara umring al saula tara umran asingida mga sulit tigal governors especially across state our rangers and help para security of course putting the helping us with the silsila mura albab maral mle al bela lol ngasew mang damral di mga sulit bekla other bela you know and I'm sure bebra time kada sada akle mol lobes ra ding tiamran le rangal la blur bela mo kada maral di mga sulit bekla other girele and thank you I see Tiragal bridge I don't know if you have the list Tiragal uktim le donate Tiragal ungil al sum ngane atel ko ba list Tiragal sa leader other on the blue mar other belaw Tiragal mle contribute tel mora and I think there'll be a time kada mo broadcast ay la ora al chairman share lang alo baka
hindi ako sa president kada ko radil ka mga other cell al after action report tergiv misel already say give mo ay some more details retirigel rugul adam na donate ka la mailum lama ay gel details gel commitments al gel bel report a Minister Victor
diga kung tial le ura nga sulira adara abulu el tiram le mestre adar mi lauror matamo mestre mi ral memo you know that's mgi garay but segi der rengar bekla adal el filo se te adol toring sega kadat magro gay nga sew mang al sel bela my krel bela not mage gay nga sel ko sulang a bridge of course yes na lang te ma umisa ko ngalak rough ka mal sam lo gira
malungil tuta president mal ministers malungil tuta malle direkal malme ungil tel programa akti so kal direkal note bridge ase ngaya beberali sonsol gumiserte tamal go out of their way far and above the call of duty el accommodate gero kul sorit el adma ay selul ko nga Victoria minister that's true that's a very Palawan hospitality makadamal proud ni
you know I think share lo say tamram lengul ambassador belaw el liaison lo tritigala magdo mara se la sel tigalat servitur ma blure tigadi murgal ambassador belaw no isra belan marabulad damran nga suligel say that was really outstanding
Yes, I was very proud to see that. President, ako sa questions deactivate tragal gina legal plan ang gukti. So kal share so kal ask a question sa clarify Maybe that is I can do maral el gina la torta gina sustainable 100% sustainable management blue prosperity directly ko bebra questions and more related mortal current PNMS policy el do sa dangi mang kam na mention el number of times la say kada tal toruringil sustainable 100% manage ocean mo help para other belaw ma question ako to question ase tel PNMS rikidre lang diakal ngaringar ngot al manage ringi malo ngot al benefit ringi diakal other belaw ya follow up on that ngani at legal lulmesar sel blue prosperity plan mal simple mal clear out mal outline ay role objectives sa mga plans al mula sa mo implement a question ako misaringi bato regal discussions so for example a sustainable fisheries plan ma innovative fishery management ako kelbladareng sa PNMS sa matel presentation sa committee tiga all along that the year past 2 years masada kikita lo sisiul wal losada o sisito ko amelisi local domestic fisheries and most of it become more sustainable reach objectives ngam le ngar alsiltegi del plan mang I guess a question will get say president ma minister was say tial managed 100% management managed ocean multi difference ringil mention ringil kung ringil sen mosa ringil correct me if I'm wrong amsa dar say dal to era fishery el basically say el allow additional fishing companies el mesois para fishing mesois para the bed resize maluwe kung paisera sen mosa ringil special planning kung resizing mo allow mo managing in different ways. Basically, the difference that I see. A question I say, I get concerns el vice mo ni presidente lo say throughout tel conference ang niya at other protests lo say we want to maintain the 80% no take zone. I get el concerns el losada hace tel 80% a feed a 20% it serves as a sanctuary, a breeding ground for the fish, and it flows to the 20%. There are other belaw benefit from that. How much different is that in the plan you guys already putting together other than the resizing?
Sulang leng السنة غات الكيف المغمغطة لأن غرس بإذل دو تشاستيس الديس موديل دي غذاب سيقلو الراورين راض وبوم لانيا تقليو المو ويفيس legislative finding را سيرا الغط الممرور تيال لارا 2015 يتواسيا أنيق لا ديكلاين يقال ديال رأمي contribute تقلو الغومي هذا اسمري تيانغا environmental NGO sa amo lo awdo الميربيلو ميغومو ارسل قواسينغي غلا ديكلاين stock assessment tra WCPF siltilo dra 2021 aquasay yellowfin big eye skipjack tuna stock ارسل WCPFC region الجيدا partneringi green waseng not being overfished. There are overfishing happening within the WCPFC region. Number 2, sel kwase igal omngeda contribute klol gomil mera tel the belbelaw. And all timing the 22 sera before 2020 emlo up to 65 el dial omngeda belaw el ang di 18 el dial rasyabal ma imol dile labofi. A plastic adriga clora el mera shorter below. Number 3. Self mle kwase the asmeritiang environmental NGOs al awdov may provide tra figure lo asya. Sera lomo la PNMS Actra 2015 sel pasal mola emlania sel da seng winding down period. Dimle el sela first year tamle reduce a number of vessel days el sab edel deploy marar other omnged by 20%. So 20% reduction in revenue sel time. 2016 another 10% reduction. Total 30%. By 2017 another 10% mong total 40%. So from the long line fleet, ikadamle reduce our revenue by 40% raigel days elgid otraw. Sera 2020 melmutre el 3 years selda seng bigos endigia igel locally based long line fishing vessel el dotra wa days tirmra etame export tangi gelangani iskel local expense el do seng up to $2.6 million. So el sela 2015 el mera en all time I estimate about $9 million loss in potential revenue mera government traveler below. Figure sabi ko mo provide rin from Center for Ocean Solution at part of Semle Kabegal Task Force el President Milktab Ears at October and members rin Palau International Coral Reef Center, Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Environment, Conservation International, Blue Nature Alliance, the Nature Conservancy, akwasing since 2017 el mera el 2022 there's only $3.8 million in grants mlasois vel mora a Pickwick al tangania mora other organization el diagi modingi, but that's the figure. So take $3.8 million comparing in mora $9 million, there's about $5 million in lost revenue al sum kada masadara div dovda sera langaringi omngeth PITI annually ngordia ngara 64 metric tons tuna mora local market traveler below. Our other below annually gadogolia 53 metric tons offshore fish. El all time above fee adisabel logordi at 22 metric tons el mera local market. So, kada diyo mes ay number and then we know kwaseng mlamong song sangigel within a local market. Also mar tourist tami sell consumption increased to over 100 metric tons. So, kada mes ra short-term impact but more importantly sell long-term impact tertial langara al sell. Ya la kadore eringi sell long-term impact mo o diakal sa edel sum klima lumomring ladas mokring iruriulo. Ngania stadil mirror 2017 by Forum Fisheries Agency Bureau of Marine Resource amle commissioner kwase sel time ya a fishing round sell 20% adrigamle ngara southeast below. Sell assessment adilur kwasing there's no financial viability of any long line fleet operating within 20%. Sell kill ngarsia kwase financial viability ringi. If you recall momesra changes in the law by 2019 ekadamle change la move at 20% al more west side for some other reason. Emlo alara other omnged lo seng so min more rahaisis yang ara MLN below to make it financially viable. Di what happens over a era haisis ngaroida cost will increase. Malsum kada masada ringil ngara conservation ratuna Stadil Bread Province ringia Alex Filios ma Palau International Coral Reef Center at 2021 ako kasi sel home range ng tuna is about 2,000 kilometer. Agel tunal bel tagar belaw, abol betigel ngara kaping marangir abol abay, amam betigel ngara Indonesia, amam betigel ngara Philippines. So, maral ng lakra adobel belaw. Maral to asya tel 80% asmarin dia amliya ka gineng mangigel dil ngara alsil. Why say? Dia ka gineng mangigel atov dil ikrel adobel belaw. Sel kaseng spill over almara 20%. Ngungin labo the understand ra science. A science ra karamlal, ma science ra tunak mal kakarosa. Reef fish are bottom dwelling species associated with tial bottom. Ovo mo dangle home range ra karamlal waseng ngara 5 miles. Abi la sabel protect ra karamlal leng ngara 6 kilometer sel klungel abila. Tindakas el protectra kamadukla lengtovda. Aul magdo spera a closure kamadukla. Emla mafto kamadukla. Not bigoseng close abila. Mong ndiraga ka stadil mlattovda anywhere in the world. Al kwaseng ngania spillover ra migratory fish. Mga igigida science el gire del mo omese aul makwasya amle intent tertial PNMS wasn't so much kwasya kada protect ratuna but more so kwasya kada magara sel benefit tamira other below. So selgi mo mes niya kwasya al till 20% klungen la a fishing ground. There's no way ang sabela imol valid survive. There's no way unless a government subsidize. But a subsidy kada mong urgir. Kadam lalo sa $2.6 million revenue sa edel generate ringi that we could reinvest and subsidize ra milisi akong balir velo. So kada di pebira time kada meser sel economics ra toko ra omangeth edi mo ba conservation ak waseng sabel. At protect rangi lang sa bedel nga rai. But mal kakaraw sa pangara era reef, madangara era offshore. Sel cost, say ako tel clol component that will make or break ra dolas al maruringi. Masel doruringi kaseng girel tay aquaculture, matokor omnged. Egida sa bedel التلقيب الوا قوسترا قال نيجل الدلند نيجي نافلور بلاو إذا قال جيل الغني نيجل الإكسبورت ترني يعني سبعة الكبر نيجل الأفوردبل المريض من سبعة المغني من تلقيب الغمان على سودال إن important الوضع نيجي كده الانفورميشن اللي واسي yes هذا مران understand را قاسين جيرد الكونسيرف di sumo kwasi kada conserve ratuna hindi al closure aruli al sumral da kalswada ngani omega develop totally the closer omega that's the only way le atmosphere ada seng area based lo assemble bol protect ratuna it doesn't work. That's the science that's available al tangani al leading malge gare versus ra asel costring hopefully sabi adal mo tel ado kada provide a true picture mo sabi adal understand dal waseng kita da also tida 80% close at the bed malungil lang it's a symbolic gesture marabulad ding rasel impact ngil guf mergi dar adal velal malasam el develop ra domestic fishing lo long ser adal velaw el contribute al mora food security gi dar adal velaw.
Narada bofir el tutau a request to say from ngara era east. Lesa de kalina. That's an example or why we need to look at the policy, revise, upgrade. Rulin mo ater how do we develop that local fishery?
So just hindi tul di kata follow up pa. Kamle mention ay wase revenue amle drop tomes before after PNMS. Hindi ko ngani ako information hindi kalblalo to kasi actually ay revenue amle ngilas all the way mulmutra even mulmutra sa 2021 kata amle earn 7 million. Ay I guess ngigal fishing
Maral tokol waseng ngilas revenue not because sa kadamle close na 80%. Because sa 2014 ya PNA amle double ra value ra percent vessel day. It's nothing to do with what we did in Palau. As a PNA region, etamlo sera 2012 sera sign ra
2010.
2010 sera sign ra tagi del PNA agreement ra se kadamo otmage implement ra vessel day. Mlestat ngario mo ngara 2013 4,000 2014 as a region at kilingel longos ilmo 8 minimum 8,000. Mong has nothing to do with the closure. Has everything to do with PNA as a management block within WCPFC. So by 2021 kadidiri goltra adergid ngara $8,900. This year egilungos a clear value ra adergid mo $9,500. Implement the other management fee ra tele. So there is still room for generating more revenue. Nela selgim mga other sabal wasem siabala ara day sringil nga era al sila velam ladrap ling kekre fishing ground. So ngayel lolo president. And all time 100% ra a vessel del doctor ang ara era outsider velo. Masel dolgo kwasya a percent na maknit oy maknit lang nga dwen di ngil al nga dvel FSM as long as that generate a revenue. Sea hypocrisy el dos adri. O hindi also mga era dvel velo di bora era high seas ngara ul mun dal swada ngara air high seas hindi ka controller tir emelendra blue vela they give us a 10 cents per kilo as the cost of collecting the data, cost of managing the fishery akmal ngarba. So mong modigal attera swad Michael the put in lol kwase moru lay mutelge moru ringia malas moru lil kwaseng more maintain our cell integrity and we're managing the fishery in a sustainable way. Etya hopefully new sustainable fisheries of other exploring here throughout Micronesia and the Pacific.
Well, one last question about manipulate.
Halek quick help clarify something. If you look at the data, Gidam Low Rich are over 10 million a year. We collect from fishing revenue. Ilang nadarap mo 7 million. Let's remember, since the PNMS, none of that revenue that we're talking about is due to the PNMS. Those are fishing days and fishing revenue due to fishing activity in Palau and outside of Palau. I say, has nothing to do with PNMS. This is what PNMS did. Reduce our revenue by 2.6 million. Say a fact. So that's why the Blue Prosperity Plan, I say, we get the conservation partners, help us get the loss, and then build a plan that can be durable, protect the integrity of the sanctuary, because ultimately integrity of the sanctuary, so that protect the that's why it's about regenerating, rebuilding, and continue los perang kalingan. That's why ang ariabon. Maisende.
Yes.
So saya amok teng I think ang nganegel kun masal chartel maral painting the wrong picture. So it's important sel sumagada dolto da data em sada toy nakama fact and where the money came from and what it's for. So for the last 7 years, zero from sanctuary mitigay the long at the partners that help pergi and replace the loss and meron sang. Okay, sige tayo mom dangan. So for the first time in 7 years, finally we have some money replacing what we lost.
Okay. The last one connected to that America kung manipulated tal mega rekla. Sel kuk understanding al do al marala say segi the loss el bol experience niya belaw lang mutia kafia umengedra at bel belaw 80% at bel belaw. Alakalbi de and I was going back to the kuk news reports al gimrura years back in sel sel PPEF field blo the blo implementer ngi awal blo el generator a replacement to sel utot. Of course ang COVID makadam la loser ngi ang sel el alba alutol ngari recovery ra tourism. Madalutol mo malara a tourist tial le financial scheme ra PNMS el collect revenue from tourists rather than from fishing. Seng dakal el replace ngi al ube it's going to be an additional revenue ma republic to open ra asim mora a fishing companies.
So let's be very clear. Tourist and mara blur belaw. In their mind right now, believe is se celebra alba betia partra PNMS. Even together mara conference. Celebra gal almol lomba protection and partra PNMS. Can understand our worry? They're giving money to la protect together la sadar awal tamasadar tial blue. Maigal meleokoni. That's really where that's why they're giving money. Because of what they come and see. So yes, kadangal tangat el Wagor state no mesa valura ablurir matingilo jellyfish lake and additional $50 collect $100 a tourist. We need to know was ngara valura balwab e askara other melding ra balwab was contribute mora a protection ma tial blue. So selbo the mix aigal tolo was meta ngai the ludo or tourist replace aigai tia giral mergid anyway. So it doesn't mean was kamna magaludo tourist so discount sell opportunity ra other belaw al mga gerra asel ukirel blingri to tuna. I think that's where the misconception is. Same in the regal blingre del gira del mga. So back in the very beginning, President Ramasam na ogera set tamak adra finance house. Mulgerang was how much money do we need to replace our lost revenue a republic? Actually, at the minimum, we spend 10 million ra bekkarrak. And if you look at the revenue, it's about 10 million. Why say? How do we get 10 million a year? Kasi bumawado tigay del sa lead, balbaskida 200 million at the Creator Endowment Fund, and every year lakatang at the collector selo. Sell time na meron zero albaskid. Tigal sa lead girela at tokora o mga riyom. Didi sorry masadri arwa piu matil butok hindi sell dungura at tel to India. Finally this year at tamla kasi no, we need to come up with a better plan. Ile our reason arwa aigal baby rablu arwa giriba samla ngutia plan nulo itirik klasem dangi mga riyom is exactly that. Tamla besel wase when we do these things and al gira lo besel adul tuida aigal karreger matmok ladrang clear, matmok hospitality, matmok school. So if you listen to our other giribas, esaya alo saudri. So all around the world, the biggest challenge is say magarado ru like the large protected areas, resilient, durable, SML continual low. So really, what our partners have come together and said, I say that's why we need to have a plan. We should have the plan 7 years ago. No plan. Kadi uspe tinggal imor rubak. Kadi memang klabo kala ipengya ng ayen beringan aral idip Louis Vuitton hindi sero kisi alsel baao. That's what we need to fix. So that's what we're fixing. Kadi utokora meruli set ding baao idip. Now we have to figure out how we make sure school dangan yaw do take care hospital dangan yaw do take care a retirees dangan yaw do kaber tilang kadam na yase kote ngosong sa SS ngosong sa pension ngosong those are all the realities that we live in. So anyway,
America the president adira lungil bodo la history tal $100 le tal $100 adi mlal di magically appear because of PNMS. $100 year 2000 Naringa stadil milgat mok loger tourist mo se how much are you willing to pay extra? Maybe visit Revelo. Send number amle up to $100. If you recall, let's say sustainable financing mechanism, Nora protected areas network. By 2003, the pasara PAN Act. By 2006, the milas marur the financing mechanism. Serán un $100 talato se tira mal club turista modegalmi. Down to $50 to send the Andriga club. Down to $30 to send the Andriga club. So it went down, será got implementing $15. A year later, they realized lo hacen Andriga club turista en Malmem, godulngos mo $30. En ilu 15 of that $30, will take care of water and sewer. So by 2015, Palau was charging $50 and more visitors and more available. So sell extra $50. We could have political will at that time charging my tourist without NMS, and we still would have gotten it. Example, a jellyfish like a issue. So whether we have 80% close or not, that's what they're willing to pay to see a well-managed protected areas and managed reef system available. Now, they kwaseng sell 2.6 million na deka tutalel. I think the mesra pension plan, social security. In 10 years, that's $20 million sa sibel cover ay gigidel ngal sang sela ay gigidel program. So as a nation and sibel wasing we need to maximize every opportunity or revenue helpful ay gigidel obligation available. So sel world dasula sa alutal met touristing sibel for sel 2.6 million akum das wendia as a nation ng los peado ng dia kumara kwaseng ngungil adoro ringil waise al sumon se bedel el ngu erula tor o mengedel mungil lungil ar adre belaw ngaram dia gadreli.
So very simply put, you have to balance protection and production. Waise mal sumong ngari atte le ngari agar ngariet e continual manwal tial benefit tial de bedam se continual harvest continual ngaring galet ngaram dia kadrelli nte alla almergi dar adar belaw dia kalgia del merem marael ngira del el make sure aklungya la marar adar belaw ngali al dera constitution ri da wasing highly migratory masum highly migratory kam merem mara haisis mutungu de ka kargel mer belaw. And are you being responsible as maradar tial bulu mar adar tial bulu and make sure a benefit some benefit other below. Ngira del balance ay galtol make sure was a klungyal ultimately and more benefit other below. Lagada fix the other number. Let's do it the right size because that's what science says. That's what experience says. That's what we say lo say. Ang igel kada manager niya maral moklo magrate tele. Ay kita gira del luto ini. Kumbra lo hace at the end other bela adio wana adrustri sel gotel mongil girera adrablu sea adrustri chula malaga.
Good morning. So, Minister and Mr. President, when you say it's a Blue Prosperity Plan, so it's a business plan. Every business plan also has a projection of how much value it will give, it will create. And also, when you clarify the marine special planning, so you plan how and where to use the marine spaces, right? So there's some fishing, there's some conservation area. Are you planning any other activities in that marine spaces other than fishing? And also, Mr. President and Minister, that's a vast ocean. So if you're planning to put some fishing in the conservation area, do you have the tools? Do you have the allies internationally and locally and the funding to protect the ocean? Who manages the ocean? When you talk about 100% ocean management, who will protect it?
So Palau will protect it. We're doing it now. We're protecting and we're doing surveillance within 100% of Palau's ocean. When we're talking about 100%, it's about how do we generate revenue to reinvest in that protection. So, and I think your question around is the plan only about fishing? The answer is yes. Palau has a existing law that bans deep sea mining, bans bottom trawling. Palau is 100% shark sanctuary. Palau bans
Well,
fishing and floating fish aggregating device. Those are laws that this plan will not touch. This is only talking about how do we make fishing sustainable. Yes, there will be areas that will need to be protected, and we need to determine why those areas and what are we protecting in those areas. So right now, I don't know. So that's what we hope science will help us. The forum fisheries agencies have committed to help support Palau Blue Prosperity Plan. Secretariat of Pacific Community, which is the scientific body within the region, has committed to helping us. World Bank has also committed to help us with marine spatial planning. Nippon Foundation has committed to be supporting Palau and Blue Prosperity Plan. So we've built partnership to help us implement the plan. And we believe that further analysis of how much revenue will be generated based on the activities that will be put in place will be determined through this process.
and I think we also should give credit to the first part of the plan that was also being funded by the Nature Conservancy, Conservation International, Blue Nature Alliance, Neotero, and Chris Larson as an individual donor. So those are all our partners to see this to become a reality. So we've tried to get everybody in the same canoe and paddling in the same direction.
Just to clarify and follow up, activities, all exploration is also not part of those activity because under the PNMS, no extraction, no mining. So it's all exploration part of that because President has in past earlier press conference has not, it's sort of keen in exploring that activity. And also, Mr. President, who is Chris Larson? I think you have mentioned in one of your speeches about Ripple Labs. Are they going to be also part of the funding partners?
Yeah, so Chris Larson, before we went to see him in at the end of March, he had already committed to $1 million to Give Power. Give Power is an NGO that does renewable energy to Palau. So he has a plan that he will make Angaur 100% renewable because that's costing PUC a lot of money. So if you can make that 100% renewable, it reduces PUC's cost, which helps all of Palau reduce its power cost. And also looking at the capital. So those are the two that he had already committed funding to. We went to see him in March and asked him, Minister and I, that we have this Blue Prosperity Plan, and would he, this is our challenge, and his response was, can $1 million help? So Ripple, as you know, is the company that we signed an MOU with to study setting up a Palau stable coin, and we're using their ledger. So you can also say that because of that opportunity, he knows about Palau and he wants to help Palau. So already he's committed $2 million to helping Palau, besides maybe cooperating and also helping us in that area. But So we thank him because he wanted to come to the Oceans Conference. He planned to come in February. He couldn't make it because we changed the date. But one of the things that when we had met him, he had to leave to a meeting because, as you know, cryptocurrency uses a lot of energy. In fact, they estimate that Bitcoin will soon consume as much energy as the entire country of Japan. That is not sustainable. And so he was, and I don't know enough about crypto and how they're mined and all of that, but he says all they have to do is change the code and they can be more environmentally sustainable. And he's all about how to be responsible. Cryptocurrency is good, but if you're burning that much power, and a lot of them are still based on coal, that's bad for the environment. So that's where Bitcoin and Ethereum are bad for the environment. So we've got to help them come up with a better way of doing those things, because they were using so much power in China that it was affecting the grid. A lot of them have moved to the US. In Texas, there's lots of coal-fired plants there. Some of them are in Iceland. At least that's on geothermal, but we need to encourage the use of renewables and not destroy environment in mining Bitcoin. It's almost like the same as mining gold. So yeah, I think that's so yes, it's the same ripple.
My question about oil exploration.
Oh, oil exploration. So first of all, the PNMS, there is no idea to mine oil within the PNMS area. The only oil exploration that ever has been discussed in Palau is within Kayangal's 12-mile zone. So that's a question you need to ask Kayangal if they want to do it or not. But it's, as you know, state resources are under the states. But when we talk about the EEZ and the 24 miles beyond, that's way beyond any idea for oil exploration. That's why bottom sea trawling, deep bed sea mining, that's all has been outlawed, protected. So even the mammals, right? Like whales, dolphins, dugongs, all of those things.
To question maktogeratri minister ang sokal di clarity mo regel commitments so kamle mention regel 7 commitments again siya lo siya regel 7 at lo regel 410 total commitments. Next question nga kamora Director of Public Health. Director ng kadang rablu ada dire man concern ra tiap close siya dal narbelaw. Wasit tiyak kalil ko ra event mau ulang amornya second wave ra surge ra COVID. Kata ngania news ra shell delegation at Taiwan latwa ba online news ra Taiwan wasi half or trigel doril delegation at Taiwan amnet tested positive sa Taiwan. And then regional media reports report ra ngel melihat delegation of Fitchil mel ngel AG Attorney General mel dire kam nesmer so nganing sigil sebek nga nablu mang sel tial 30 mg osmer tial togoing klel ulel dire gal dalbor ngel sel sebek nga nablu klel bot klamrang lo se klel pal ulel buk start a second wave ra increase ra at togoy ra COVID.
So lang kambes ra malungil question ra first haladik go over some of the numbers selgire la testing el milkat mokler segi del gukwigra ocean. So sel mlewigra ocean beginning April 11 elmo o April 17 ng mlaring total test of 1,465 el I'm just going to talk about the ocean participants. So, Tirigel ocean participants who tested positive, I'm 23. Out of the 23, and 7 are local. Local al participate ocean, I'm tested positive, which means it was the 16 al na raikrel belal let move al me participate ocean. Amle tested positive.
Jakal sabi akal kami tersel al cook situation na Taiwan landir ka kakora official communication del kimngay, but I can report the wase say del do remember el delegation. I think that's the right number. Let test till 2 days before our arrival. Let test el PCR. Ya test result tira dimle negative raw. So, with we know wase ako with anywhere up to 14 days el move. We can't sell waseng tingilur belao or ang tingilura ser al arrive at Taiwan. But we do expect to was any time el boring a close second and it likely nga rin a little search of cases. So monitoring it al week mo next week o mesel waseng nga increase in the number of cases. But so far last week al week cases ra local al adal met tested al non OOC participants have sort of remained the same as the previous week. Then we've been seeing a downward trend in the number of cases that tested positive. So we're going to have to wait until at least the next week. Mesel waseng nga rin research the Lingle Mortal Ocean Conference. But I just wanted to report to was in the 16 of island guests when they arrived and when they did the pre-conference testing and they tested it positive. So I think 16 is a pretty low number, but as I said, we'll wait until next week. Mesel waseng nga rin a number of cases waseng it's connected to the ocean conference. And the testing MHS made it so that testing was accessible at all times. So mlaring testing site nga PCC hospital remained open. Testing site hospital mlaring direct mlaring sel mobile team el Marayla hotel el gukti accommodated trigal VIPs. Direct we had a medical station el mlek medra venue el gukti mle accommodated trigal adal mo symptoms. So we did do a lot of testing lang sa ela adal tested multiple times. That was offered wasing if you want to get tested every day and you can access the testing. So okay, ako preliminary numbers sa report all time.
So I think Director, can you update the are we still in the hospitalized in the last 2 months?
Most of us, yes, and mo hospitalized and death. Agi ulto da la kora limit ra tegim limit agi ulto the numbers sel Tuesday or Friday. So this evening ko told the cell update and this so far ang we haven't had any deaths COVID related for quite some time, and same as hospitalization.
Yeah. Will the hospital. So I said there was a namo in some cases and I think one of the things we can learn from this at Taiwan amal digam kasa cases ring. So you can see there was a lot of positive cases possibly with them because masa cases are other bela. But probably most of us have already had it, but we don't know we've had it. As Dr. Hancock would say, if there was a COVID to get, Omicron was the one. And if you get it, you're immune. So that's most likely why. And they're boosted, vaccinated, ay mura ulit. Mga akti, ora di share sa kita mo understand. Digel bulul wa Taiwan and digal wa instead of missing was killed spike. Actually, other Taiwan expect was in the month of May they might be hearing again numbers like Korea 500,000, 600,000 a day. So they're saying it's on the way, and that's why they're already talking about maybe June, July to open up more. We need to go to the next phase. And one of the things that I one of the things we need to help Pacific understand was we need to move away from the paralysis that COVID has caused us. The continual and unfortunately the 1 hour room one case President because I have one case, but we need to help them understand that you need to face it. You need to move through it because eventually everybody's going to get it. And this was mutal matter other Ministry of Health. Dr. Henkang saw me below in March. Before I moral mo Mr. Tigal donor sa he came here for a vacation. Sa trigam lang ng American Samoa, yung American Samoa we're implementing the Palau plan. And mal matter below Ministry of Health maureri kasi yosper below example kasi how to address COVID rogo so medyo tumstira congratulate tira maring lureri and what they do to protect us and keep us safe and move through this. So
lang Presidente di ku spertal te alek tirakal announce alwasigim last start the roll out ra second booster. So gi ulu spera chimra before but because of the ocean and gora I'm learning logistics issue kumam but el all time agim la omu ulan maruling ira every Friday so selway al second booster more tirigela of course ang ngari priority group 50 age and above al siguma last or sum omngilura 4 months ago and you are eligible for your second booster so from for now agi di maruling yourself Friday for the oril mo 6 story sel community health center clinic across Rakoror until agi kuk sort out al waseng ra next basyo kipom muspering inding yes a second booster am mo available kada mo ulan mo sa 50 and above.
Okay. The last question nga kamora Minister Education. Minister President mentioned that the Ministry of Education is facing a shortfall of $1 million. So since able ko explain na ni wasing tiyang magara mo na shortfall.
the 10% cut.
Thank you for that question. It's not a pleasant thing to address. I come from an environment where you're not allowed to have a red bottom line. You must not break that line. We have broken that line. We've exceeded our revenue by about $260,000. Now, part of that is due to the expansion of our programs. Even though we have reduced staffing in our central office by over 17 people, unfortunately, because of the civil service requirements, when people retire, they receive a substantial severance benefit from their leave. So instead of recouping that entire amount, it was only a small percentage. So the reduction in staff didn't do what we had hoped it would do in terms of helping our bottom line. So that's why I met with the president and said, what are we going to do? And he has told me basically we're going to maintain our services and we're going to continue to do the best we can. We have been very fortunate because of one of our grants from the U.S. Department of Education. We were able to, we were under the requirement to begin a teacher certification course because of the grant required it. We were in actually a default status, which nobody seemed to realize, and we found that out. So what we were able to do was transfer money from one account, travel, into another account for teacher training, and that has paid for the University of Guam, PCC, MOE, cadre. So that was one thing which we were able to do, which did not impact on our bottom line. But you cannot, what we are doing and have been doing for several years here is to show people, children, education is not important. We have not had new textbooks. We have students who are using science books from 1993. Now that is absurd. There has been a lot going on there. So we're making changes, and the original budget we did allocated enough money to, we had hoped to do 2 full course changes, which we have been able to do so to a certain extent. Number one, we are replacing all textbooks in our social sciences with new textbooks. Now we're not getting paper hardbound books. We're going with electronic books in the majority of those. The electronic books have significant advantages over the traditional books, so that if a student is reading and they're having difficulty reading, they can get vocabulary assistance within the book itself. Also, you avoid all the shipping costs, so we reduce our expenses in that way. The second project that we are looking at would be to improve our students' reading. That's one thing that seems to have been ignored over the past years, is that our students are almost all second language students, and we have not been teaching reading in any of our schools as a separate subject for many years. And we wonder why they're having difficulty in all of the subjects, because we're handing them textbooks, even though they're outdated, they're still written at grade level. And so a student who cannot read at grade level, we've got statistics to prove that over 75% of our students are reading at least 1 or 2 years below grade level. So you're handing them a book that they can't read, which doesn't help the situation at all. And the president has been very, very supportive in our moves to try to increase this. And so we will be implementing a new individualized computer-based reading program in the elementary schools beginning in July. So we have been able to find alternative forms of and reduce costs in terms of expenses. But our basic cost of personnel, we can't do much with. So that's why we are going to need additional support for the remaining years, because we have to make it all the way through October. And beginning again in July, we're starting a new school year, and so we always have a larger outputting in terms of materials and supplies. So we are expanding our programs, we're improving our programs, but all that comes at a cost. And I think everybody needs to really become aware that the long-term investment in education does have a negative impact on your population, because students are voting with their feet and they're leaving. And until we can get a school that meets their needs, it's going to continue.
So I think, let me just explain the shortage. So Minister says, and just to be clear, you haven't overexpended because you haven't used up this year's budget. This year's budget is for the full year, but we know that we cut the budget back by 10%. And 10% of 9 million is 900,000. That's where the shortage is coming from. So we do need a supplemental. And I think that's why I say the supplemental, part of it is going to come from our conservation investors that have agreed that hopefully by the end of the month, we have money so that the OEK can work on a supplemental to address these issues that we have, to make sure that we don't run short for education or health or police, because those are our most critical. And those state governments that are in need. So
President Randy, in relation to that, sa UTMOE, rest government tawang status ring, financial status ring.
Well, we cut everything by 10%. So everybody is asking, can we at least get our 10% back? I mean, that's the hope. But we need revenue. And unfortunately, the tourism has not picked up. Of course, Oceans, I'm going to help a little bit this week. But we're still falling behind. So we're going to have to continue to hold back. Hopefully we have a little bit. We can work something out. But I know Minister is not here. He's at the ADB this week. But we're going to have to work something out before the end of the year and talk to our partners and try to come up with something.
Just follow up. Talking about financial status. So you've always mentioned about alternative revenues and Palau has no money. How much is Palau's debt right now? Is Palau in the red? The debts, the rising debts and shortfall.
So are you asking from a budget, or you're asking about total debts for Palau? Because they're two separate things. So there's an annual budget that you pass. And to fund the budget, you have taxes, you have all kinds of revenue, plus loans that fund that budget. So that's what we're operating on this year. So 30 million of the budget, or maybe it's 40 million, Minister's not here, coming from loans, right? The previous year, we also got 40 million from loans to fund the budget. It looks like we're going to have to do that again next year because tourism is not coming back as fast. So that's just the reality that we live with. So the correct answer is, we're not operating a budget deficit yet because we're using loans to cover that budget deficit, right? To make sure that we're balanced. However, we have more debt. So I've been saying this, that our debt now is equivalent to our GDP. Because we talk about the loans for COVID, we talk about the sewer loan, we talk about the fiber optic cable loan, Taiwan loan, there's loans everywhere. So yes, we have to diversify our economy. We got to find different ways because we have a lot of loans to pay, and we need to talk to our partners about these loans too. Yes, we have a challenge, and COVID has made it worse. Besides, our pension debt also is another big debt that we're stuck with. So.
Sir, what about the promises of the other alternative sources of revenue? Your digital residency, and then there was a private bank, new private bank law. So those promises of the alternative sources of revenue, how will that bring in more revenues for Palau?
Well, the good news is digital residency is already up and running. We've now reached over 1,000 digital residents, which has generated over $100,000. We know that there's still more that needs to be done. So that's why Minister of Finance asked for experts to help him to continue to build the ecosystem that this will help that industry grow and provide revenue to Palau. Just like the shipping registry. It took a while for it to begin, but now it generates, Minister, about 1.4 million a year. So this is part of the diversification that we need to do, is we need to be able to find alternatives to help us generate revenue, but more importantly, eco-friendly alternatives. So the private banking, same thing. That's not going to happen overnight. We got to establish the bank. We've got to bring in depositors, and then eventually we will make money off of that opportunity. So all of them take time. So just like the compact we're talking about now is 2024. It's not immediate, but it's an important part of our economic resilience that we need to be at the table and discussing, highlighting our challenges and how we can partner with our partners and make sure that we get through this. So
Diri sabere, Mr. President tuloge rage.
yeah, namo 1 hour and 30 minutes
Gele Minister Robi mumargong. Musula Mr. President ma Minister Victor tial na divulsar tial Blue Prosperity Plan and Malaysia tial urior fisheries Palau. Tial fisheries industry ma tourism industry ya ega major revenue generating industry rablur Palau. Elagdam la masa experience gida tourism industry dirgaga mat participation other Palau meran mutialu do dengan tourism industry. La selguren sermin masa tial Blue Prosperity Plan kom di masa del girela eso revenue mesoisme. Dengan ya plan el girela investment el moral other Palau la maktub aurelir el girela gagir el industrial kami amalasam el milisi. Ngania plan lo bengela gagir el major industrial kami asamul el build and molang sura other Palau. Le other Palau dia gudin dia resources tirel lo mula galurio. Se no me setel tourism industry la gana umbre el 20 years lo ludo denia todo Palau. El other Palau dia realizes se maklung el audotal lo la ni magil ma government.
Kabong Minister.
Musulara maluel ger mudlong big part tial Blue Prosperity Plan na invest rar adre Palau. Radya kadil dasang moringa bil singir mong moringa sio bartir, but more importantly gire de lo meselo asen tangarian adre Palau soril mo ngartial lo mangid mal sorir ang makara the trainer tir. Tial pulen line en mlea siabal adimla kadil bas kita bilasam dong direk lo bangela trainer ko sing tangarian adre Palau seperir mo mara pulen line. O sisul mora tora aquaculture. O de direk lo rengal wasing moringar ngal gedel direk sebe edel trainer tir el mo expert ra ella arma. Uktora sersra dabeng taptogar adre Palau la mo sersra kim. mamtel diri gora omesra kukser serangi gila mong aige focus ra agok development ter tora fishery museng livelihood ra adre belau ngani ngara ngani ngaro ngara ala siobai ngani ngaro shares ngani ngara baby part tertial doseng value chain ra fisheries aige gidri kam assess lo aseng ngara ngia ngani ngar adre belal samariar morngi mong ngara the trainer tin mo value adding mong imo export mong imo mong batokate alanding di mo era adre ngari interested tir kwaseng sabe edel lo ngasertir
Sila Minister Victoria. Ta questione amerga Mr. Presidente ngaring isel. So into resolution blal. Adapting your House of Delegate elangara Senate. El kirel sel approval sel loan 20 million na meka bangra international bangra Taiwan. In tilo dating la Senate President ra newspaper klase sel lododa ingral set resolution ma agreemental kung komorelo mangela National Development Bank emol seura NDB lolgi sera seura geisera other belauma lolela livelihood ti in tilo dating la Senate President como interested niya de albor babra 3% ngani agora plan ngani agora semil malo aisengil el girel seguidel 20 million at mga wangara abaluswenia NDB mar other bela.
I think a reference to los other presentación de una sangara los other in the 3% sell gida mo mangadrin girel sell loan gire del mundo le hace abanga has to cover its cost of overhead, so they're going to need to add another 3%. So hopefully after an utel loan abang and sell more reassess I got loan or tire on me 6%. That's what we hope they should be able to do. Girin mo mes aigel sumgaria loan al tamil expensive, for example aigel gara European bank ma SS ngara 5%. Retire again replace lobang areo interest ludo dem mong mga taigal interest rate and medio help arbek label tigel already ngari ablir, but at the same time new loans coming out them the reduction more appropriate. Housing loan mo doon may 6% and lagal 8. But yeah, palasi rabang, but that's what we're hoping that with the excess money that they're going to get, it's an increase the housing loan and mga interested medio. Where it's about building the bank and making it stronger. And then really what they need to be able to do eventually accept the deposits. When they accept the deposits, they will pay 1%. And say mutu interest in medio ng lamoringa audo blalangael ngari olingin mansil reloan out ngari olingin. That's the ultimate goal. Kada manasam lisir tial bangyad NDBP masel asset private equity bank sila sis ba audo ngari olingin mansil dan mo loan out eventually mutel mangta olingin merio.
Sula Mr. President, tunggora ngani ala rela time tel NDPP agiren mo subir other deposit audo dungi. Yang ramadal suil enforce.
Claim no hacen son audo dir. Hopefully ti ayuda el 20 million amo help partir mo sabil mo segit. Gira encourage tir. Kung sa board ma management ala gira milisi irsel uldo suiran maral magtatal dong iring. Hopefully ti ayuda el 20 million asel help partir. Get on the right path. Just to give you an idea, tell development bank rela already yellow no labam na ala 40 million. So it's a big bank. Namla kaligar el bank. Tiam na mo call bank. Namuli nga confidence rado sa tia CC el bank. Amo sa ma deposit el mo and move to the next level. Sula.
Adim lege gidia.
Yeah. Ya, tiaman lo kumang namla mo erul sigang andi kumra kumran asuli la da media. Hopefully ka kaya sel make sure fair and balanced news minister ako rafil wasin bro dia mo ring si ukto ring sa bibira mo kada mo kay ngasel dire kal ukro ko sa minister ay gel dong hindi paral di mrenga suli ako turule sokal mutel mal mutel teal mrenga suli arbek la adar belaw tial na umre kal tal sunday tial me hosting raigal ayem le igual kadel kakaros activity mila larisel Pacific Round Table mlani ako tuluyor and then mlarisel SIDS Global Business Leaders Forum mlani ako tuluyor and then ako host ra ocean sera Wednesday Mother's Day maiga awal emro emle host ra youth emro ko campaign tiro bigit ocean sa mong mran lepto activity di alim lagal lurtuir arbek laf magkita blol ko adim sa executive di adim lagal adal olbira kululal dire kam help pergi mar staff per team le help mar adala agort judiciary tedire kam le help of course I got state governments a PCC dire gal arma sil belaw a chamber of commerce Creek maigal beto kal NGO terim nakal sa dugot makli pagmaral di yung tel maral di mga suler bek laab ara umaral wasem la successful conference edire galuk utel teal mo urang suler trigel el blolo no sergi drabek kal silsel lorior uk no to bet silsel tirel al sils mangaria France tele ngara MPII minister madire gal dire nombre ka burde ngam na matablo madire gal Edwin Aploy ma David Fakataw ng nara MHHS share madirigal Jerome Macreo sa Yoshi Aki Okabe ng Ministry of Education. Let's wish them a happy birthday to Gobet Celsius. Dire mga sulir sa service team mga kabelmentary git. Edidru trore nga sulir arbek adar belaw. Dong mudar arbek adar mera asora el morira era el melo lurior ra 3 o'clock rangun mut. Tigel mo sa Abril, May, kadamal mga madaro kami rogul May, edire kadamo broadcasting live, logi I got radio station mang suilding argere ordering di kadamaran mga sular bek adar belaw, ya dio sura makaltanga travel wada lo makaltanga trigid rogui ma next next week kadamo dibus. Next week kadamo dibus, hindi following week kadamo boda kasues. Next week yung kadamo dibus kaduk mora cell meeting ergidara JCM edire kan moram regel momitra ambassador adekala special envoy yun marbira ador bira bluram regel madame ukto aiso sa kanamle meeting ergid man sulak